Long, long ago, there lived in Greece a proud king who had a beautiful wife named Nephele. Now, Nephele means cloud, so whenever the clouds disappeared from the sky, so would she. The king and queen had two children, a boy named Phrixus and a girl named Helle. The children brought such happiness to their family that the joy could only be ruined by one thing, a hot summer day. Whenever the clouds departed, Nephele would mysteriously disappear. The soldiers searched far and wide for the queen, but no one ever knew what happened to her on those sunny days. As you can imagine, there came a time when the king began to grow tired of his wife's long absences. And there was, as well, a beautiful dark-eyed lady named Ino, who wanted the king for herself. The truth is, Ino was a witch with evil magic powers, and she talked the king into marrying herself. Ino hated the children. She took their fine royal clothes and made them dress in rags. She would not allow them to sleep in the palace, and she forced them to watch the shepherd's flock for long, strenuous hours. By now, Nephele had been gone for a long while, and there was not a drop of rain in the sky. The people of the land were dying of thirst and hunger, and finally the king sent his messengers to an oracle in a distant city, asking what he must do to bring back food and health to his people. However, his wicked wife Ino secretly bribed the messengers and told them that, when they returned, they were to announce that the oracle had said Phrixus and Helle must be killed before rain would once again fall upon the land. The king could not disobey his gods, so the children were prepared, clad in white robes and flowers, as human sacrifices. They were to be burnt at a stake, when suddenly a golden ram flew to the rescue. The ram flew many miles over land and sea. Helle became weak and dizzy and fell down into a deep river and died. Unlike his sister, Phrixus clung to the golden ram and flew to a faraway country called Colchis. The long journey had weakened the ram, and it too died. Phrixus stripped the golden fleece from the ram and hung it into a mystifying oak tree in a dark forest. There, the wondrous fleece was guarded by a dragon that never sleeps. The myth of the golden fleece was spread all throughout the world, and no one yet has been able to retrieve it.
Long after Phrixus had died, there lived in a certain country a king and queen who had but one child, a boy named Jason. King Aeson was a weak king, and his own brother came to the kingdom with a large army to drive out the royal family. Aeson still wanted his son to have a proper education, so he sent Jason to Chiron, the wisest being in Greece who just so happened to be a centaur. Chiron taught Jason about the stars, how to cure diseases, how to hunt, fish, and fight. He also told the boy that his duty now lay in reclaiming the kingdom that was rightfully his father's own. So Jason started on his journey. Once he had gone some distance, Jason found an old woman looking for some way across a flooded river. Remembering Chiron's teachings, Jason kindly escorted the old woman across the river. The water dashed against him with great force. He had to struggle with all his might, and he was out of breath when he landed his companion on the other shore. You can imagine, to Jason's surprise, to see that the old woman he had carried across was the form of the goddess Juno. "Young man," she said, "you have a good and brave heart, and you shall not regret your kindness to an old woman." When Jason recovered from his surprise, he set out once again to the palace of his father's brother, whose name was Peleus. The king turned pale at the sight of Jason, for an oracle had foretold that his kingdom would be taken from him by a youth wearing only one sandal. And as you can see, one of Jason's feet was bare. Yet the king pretended he was glad to see Jason and was happy to give up the throne. "But that can never be," the king lamented, pretending to be sorrowful at the thought, "for there is a curse upon this kingdom that it shall not be ruled by another until the golden fleece is brought here from the land at the end of the world." At this, Jason sprung to his feet and cried, "I will prove to you, O king, that I am the true ruler of this land." So Jason gathered an army of many brave men whom he called Argonauts and set out on the voyage. It so happened that the great goddess Juno sent Jason a gift to show she had not forgotten her promise. It was a piece of sacred oak. The greatest wonder of this oak was that it could speak wise words and advice to Jason throughout his long, long journey. For many weeks and many months, Jason and his crew of bold adventurers sailed dangerous waters and guided their ship through perilous situations. When they finally arrived in Colchis, the men were brought to the palace of King Aeetes, who had a mysterious teenage daughter named Medea. As Jason told the king of his plans to capture the Golden Fleece, the king started to laugh aloud and say, "You have come on a very bold mission, but the Fleece of Gold can be won only by those of great courage. If you can perform 3 tasks I set out for you, only then will I know that such courage is yours, and only then will I allow you to carry away the fleece." When Jason had heard what the 3 tasks were, he was actually a bit discouraged and hoped for the goddess Juno to help him once again. So Jason gathered his men, and when they arrived at the ship, he found that there was help awaiting him. For Medea, the king's daughter, had fallen deeply in love with him and offered him her aid, a sleeping potion, as long as he took her back to Greece and made her his wife. The first task, to yoke 2 fierce, fire-breathing bulls to the plow, was easily completed by Jason and his big muscles. The second task was a bit harder, to sow the land with dragon's teeth. But, nevertheless, Jason completed it with great success. Last but not least, he had to kill the fierce dragon that guards the Golden Fleece and never sleeps. Jason and the dragon fought for days and days, weeks and weeks, and finally, Jason remembered the gift Medea had given him, a bottle of sleeping potion. He immediately threw the potion up to the dragon's head. It so happens that the potion was extremely strong, so it killed the dragon instantly. It was a long, victorious journey back to Medea. Jason and Medea embraced and lived happily ever after in the palace that was rightfully his father's own.